So it sounds like everybody's ready to jump in then. So let's do that. I'll screen share here. And we'll begin with the end. Make sure I have sound enabled. Move some windows aside. And I'm in the Adobe Premiere Rush interface right now. We'll get to the downloading and install in just a second. I just want to play back this video of what I've created so far. And thanks to David, this is his course, Introduction to Motherboards. And I'll just play a bit of it so you get a sense of it.
Hi class, hope you're all doing well, staying warm and healthy. This is Professor Jason, CSN 105, week 3. Today's lecture is all about Intro to Motherboards. You'll see the 5 objectives for today's lecture over my shoulder here. Let's jump. So what is a motherboard? Let's begin.
My audio went out of sync. I was doing some edits last time live with the class. So I think my audio got a little bit interrupted, but you can see it's a balance between intro, a branded title to the course, perhaps a week or a module topic there. This one, we were demoing some over-the-shoulder graphics. So I'm going to remove that real quick because we really start with the objectives for the lesson here over the shoulder that then dissolve into full screen view here. And then from here on, it's fairly formulaic. It's me coming back on as like a chapter marker, if you will, and then transitioning into the content that's pulled from David's PowerPoint and turned into individual JPEG images. And that's just a PowerPoint export feature because Adobe Premiere Rush can bring in JPEG images, any type of graphic files. So what I did, picture as a student this 3.5-minute video. If that student is watching it, let's say on a mobile device, they would know if they're dragging through the timeline or scrubbing where the key chapter points are, because they have to look at my face. And then they could scrub through here or drag their pointer here through here, not necessarily in Rush, in a movie player of any sort, or in your course folder in Blackboard or Canvas or what have you. And then, maybe listen or watch my intro there, my chapter intro, and then get into the real content, the learning of the course. And that's what I did executionally from David's PowerPoint deck, is just introduce all of those chapter points and then narrate through over the slides. You can also see I have got music embedded underneath. It's some classical music. And if you're able to see, I'll zoom in just a little bit here. The music volume lowers when it detects that someone is speaking. So you can see each of these blue little clips. This one is highlighted in orange, represents a lower volume of music. It may be a little bit tough to see on my screen here. But it's true that the volume of the music goes down when there's speaking involved. So this video is just meant to help provide a little personal connection to an otherwise, static PowerPoint deck. So I want to pause there with just the intro of the video, and if there are any comments or questions of what you've seen so far. And Rick says, I've done pre-recorded sessions for the class, but my problem is doing a live stream and incorporating during my lesson a video. So to show, I guess, to cut to video, Rick, while you're live streaming, almost like a broadcast studio, is that the idea?
So Jason, as you see here, there are kind of layers that they can have overlaps, or they can be, for example, you can choose these layers, correct? Layers of audio, video, pictures, everything, they are coming together, and then you can choose whatever you like to, correct?
That's exactly right. And if we're ready, let's break down the interface, and then we'll get into installing the software. If you already have the software installed, you're in a good place, but we're going to spend a few minutes on that as well in just a moment. So yes, let's take a tour of the interface. Now, Premiere Rush is Adobe's newest, we call it a just right video editor. We've had Premiere Pro available for a long time. And if you've never edited video and you open up the Premiere Pro interface, it is very overwhelming. Compared to Premiere Rush, there's a lot of empty space, right? A lot of neutral grays, not a whole lot of menu items or anything like that. The main action is done down here in the bottom. This is called the timeline. And Mehdi, like you said, these horizontal rows are called tracks. So if you think of like a deck of playing cards, the discard pile, each layer on top of the prior is what you're going to see most of. So if I move my blue handle, this is the current time pointer, to this location in time, we have music at the bottom layer. We have my face with my voice. That's this waveform here represented in blue. And then another asset, another video clip on top that's shrunken down and moved over the shoulder. So Maximus basically Rush is a simplified Premiere Pro. That's right. And it's available not only on desktop computers, but on Android and iOS devices as well. Furthermore, for added value, any project that's created in Premiere Rush can be brought into Premiere Pro and maintain all of its attributes, all of the clips, all of the editability, everything. So we see a lot of use even by professional editors that begin here in Rush, and then when they have time to go back to their home or broadcast studio, they can continue editing in Premiere Pro if they wanted to, but you don't need to. And yes, David, you answered Angelina's question. Adobe Premiere Rush is the software. So that's our intro to the timeline here. Again, you can see the blue time pointer. You can see the intervals in seconds. So here's 48 seconds. Here's a minute 4. And each of these tracks is like those playing cards in a discard pile that stack on top of one another. Let's keep going unless there's any questions. Has Seneca faculty have access to Adobe Premiere Rush? Yes. Seneca faculty, staff, and students have access to the entire Adobe Creative Cloud, which is a collection of applications and services. And yes, Premiere Rush is one of them. Humber College has some access. Contact your IT leads. And not sure about other schools, wherever you're hailing from, if you want to mention, I can either check it out on my end or you can ask your IT leaders as well. Maxim says, off topic, is there a benefit in Rush is not available in iMovie? Yes. I mentioned the one between going from Rush to Premiere Pro, but all of the Adobe applications and services share content. So for instance, if you are an Adobe Acrobat user, Photoshop user, InDesign and Illustrator and more, all of that content that you share through Creative Cloud assets or libraries is you can collaborate with others and you can use those assets interchangeably across the different Creative Cloud apps. I can't speak as to iMovie functionality and feature set compared to Premiere Rush. I imagine they're fairly similar. I think the takeaway here is if you're not using video at all, you might look at this and say, hey, this is pretty usable and I don't have to invest a ton of time or brain power into learning these tools. If you're already an iMovie user and you say, I'm doing video, I'm quite content with the creation app I'm using, that's great too. All right, we'll keep pushing ahead. So I have a fairly robust project here. You can see it's a mix of videos and still slides from PowerPoint, and then those over-the-shoulder graphics, which are still just PowerPoint slides. Let's back up and I'll begin from a brand new project so you can get a sense of what does it look like at the base level. And when I went to the home button, this is the Premiere Rush beginning screen. And what I'm seeing here are all of my past Adobe Premiere Rush projects in reverse chronological order. and it keeps them all synchronized across my devices. So let me show you just real quick, and then we'll do some install here. Let me show you what this looks like on my mobile device, because if I had to think about your students, chances are maybe they're more on their smartphone than they are on a laptop or desktop computer. So instead of looking at me, we can look at my iPhone. Angelina, while this is loading up, says, can we bring in the videos that we've created in Adobe Spark into Premiere Rush? Yes, if you save them out as an MP4, which is a common video format across the internet and LMSs, MP4 is that movie file, and yes, you can bring those right into Premiere Rush. So what you're seeing, let me move this over for a second. This is a live view of what Rush looks like on my phone. So it's the same projects, just formatted to fit the phone, right? They're a vertical film strip of them. And if I select one of them, like the Seneca Intro to Motherboards project, the user experience is almost identical, except for the screen real estate that obviously we're on a much smaller device, and it's touch-centric. So what you're seeing here in this movie window that's sharing live via Zoom is my cell phone screen right now. You know, I can zoom in, all of the clips are here, the same files, same fidelity. And if I turn the phone sideways, you see it reformats or lays out so you're viewing it responsive style, sideways as well. Same thing when I go back to vertical. So another good reason to use Rush, especially if I'm a student and we're not in quarantine times, is if I'm inspired and I'm on a public transit home, or I'm in my dorm room, apartment, at home with family, I can continue the creation process uninhibited, even if I don't have a laptop or desktop computer. So a benefit there. And I'll quit QuickTime for a minute. So here's, I didn't bring up my agenda slide either. So we talked about item number 1 and discuss. I shared that Adobe Rush video. What I'd like you all to do, and we have 5 or so minutes to at least get started with this, is to install the software. Now, this workshop isn't a backhanded way to get everybody, installing and using Rush. It'd be nice if you were following along with us. And there is a free starter plan if you're not a licensed Adobe Creative Cloud user right now. So David, do you want to take the reins for a minute and go through some
Yes, absolutely. Just a quick question that Dagmar mentioned in the chat. Keeping AODA in mind, does this program provide closed captioning?
Thanks. I didn't see that go by.
No, not a problem. Yeah.
So 2 ways, yes, is the answer, Dagmar. One, I'm going to show during the confines of this workshop is manual closed captions by way of the titler. That's one of the features in Rush. In our Premiere Pro product, it's in a closed beta right now. It's going to be released very soon. It has auto captioning, auto detection of speech and narration, and it's pretty good. We've gotten good feedback from customers. I don't have a date of when that will be released, but I'm optimistic it will be this calendar year, maybe before the end of the year, and that's Premiere Pro. But as I mentioned, any project that you begin in Premiere Rush, it opens natively in Premiere Pro and then can spit out those captions once we release that version of the software.
Okay, and just jumping to the installation of this application. Depending on your license with Adobe products, what you can do is you can actually download this product and try this for free. But what you can do first is to use your favorite browser and search up Adobe Premiere Rush or Adobe Rush. So I'm just doing a quick search here, and of course we're looking for the adobe.com domain, and we have Adobe Premiere Rush listed here. So selecting into that, we do have a few options on how to install this. What you can do is we can actually click on this button here that says Start for Free. Now, another option is on the top right here. There is an option to sign in. So if you do have, say, for example, a license with Adobe, if you sign in, you'll see a listing of all the different Adobe applications that are available to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this Start for Free, and my browser is automatically going to download a file. And you'll notice on the bottom right of my screen here, it's downloaded this downloading agent or the installation file. I'm going to click into this. And when I do click into this, it's going to prompt me for a login. Now, I'm just going to go back in our browser for a moment. And I'm just going to put this side and side with that installation that I started. And you'll notice that when I start the installation, it does prompt me for an email address. So if I do have an account with Adobe, I can enter that in here. Otherwise, you can create an account. Similarly, if I go back to our browser here and I click on that sign in, you should see a similar experience where it's prompting again for that email address. I'm just going to go back to that file that I launched here, the install, and I'm actually going to log in with my Seneca credentials. So whether you're from another institution, you can try this if you're not sure. And this actually redirects me to the Seneca splash page. So this is Seneca's single sign-on screen. So once I log in here, you'll notice that it's starting to initiate an install of the Creative Cloud. So the Creative Cloud, there's two pieces of software that's actually being installed on the system. One is called the Creative Cloud Desktop, which helps you manage all your different products as well as the files that you will be storing into the cloud. The other piece of software that's being installed is, of course, the Adobe Premiere Rush. So this is going to run for a few minutes depending on your internet connection as well as your computer specifications. In our previous session, some of us got snagged in one of the steps, especially for the Mac users. Some of you may need to update your operating system prior to installing this. There are some requirements of certain hardware specifications as well as operating system. So if you are a Mac user and you do experience problems where it says that you need to update something, it could potentially be your operating system that needs updating.
You turning it back to me, David, or you got a little more here?
I see that there are some questions in the chat. So Laura, yes, it is available through My Apps. Now, I'm going to caution you from using the version from My Apps. The only reason is because I've tried it myself, and sometimes it is a little flaky. I'm not sure what the reasoning is, but for the best experience, I would recommend installing it locally to your machine. Yeah, Laura, it is kind of slow.
I think My App says the first time it launches Rush, it's slow because it has to install in the background all of the whatever config files. And after that, the My Apps program is supposed to optimize the experience.
Right, and you know, when I was trying it, I was almost doing a comparison here. I was running it My Apps on my system versus the native one, or sorry, the locally installed one, and I did find a better experience overall with the locally installed one.
Yeah. All right, David, okay if I take the screen share back?
Yes, yes, please, absolutely.
All right, let's go back into Zoom again. Stop David and me if there's any either technical issues. And Padma, yes, we install Premiere Rush. Yes, that's where we're at. Again, David showed how you can get it from adobe.com and download and install. If you'd rather watch and not follow along, that's fine too. And maybe you need to be convinced on if Rush is the tool for you. That's fine too. We wanted to make the workshop, since it's 2 hours long, make it more interactive and more hands-on. So that's the ideas here. Let me go back to sharing screen here. And so I'm on the initial home screen for Rush. If you've never created projects, you're not going to see any of these tiles here, because these, as I mentioned, are my past projects, all synchronized across all of my devices. So if I go to create new project, it's asking me first, what do I want to call this theme, this project? And I'll call it Seneca Demo. And then from my chooser here, it says bring in any media or any assets. And those are buzzwords for, is it an image? Is it a video? Is it an audio, like a sound effect file or music? Any of those are usable. And then what I'll show you is I took David's PowerPoint deck and as I mentioned, spit it out into individual JPEG images. As I click to add these assets, they're highlighted in blue and then given a number. And yep, David, and I'll show the speed that too. So some slow-mo. I'm just catching the chat there. So it's going to bring this one in second. And I'm just going to kind of arbitrarily bring in a few of David's slides, not all 120 something of them. And then when I hit create, notice I've got these 6. I selected them in an order that it's going to bring in sequentially into my timeline. And you can see it's done that. Each one is loaded in sequence. And they're each, it looks like 2-3 seconds long. And that's an option we can change if we wanted to. And you can see as I drag that blue current time pointer, the view in this main window called the program window is changing accordingly. And as I drag each of these clips, whenever my blue time pointer crosses one of them, it becomes selected. And you know that it's selected because it's framed in orange. So I can either drag the time pointer to go forward or backwards in time, or I can click on one of the clips and the blue time pointer will go to the middle of that clip. Another way, just like if you're familiar with watching movies on various streaming services, you can drag this blue handle to scrub through your timeline as well. So I've got what? 1, 2, 3, 6 clips in here, each one about 3 seconds long for a total duration of whatever this is, 15 seconds. And you can see the blue time pointer here in between 14 and 15. And it's also echoed here, the current time, 14 and a little bit of a fraction, almost 15 seconds. And then my playback controls here, just like you've been using since I think the advent of CD players. Now, let's go over some of the tools. So I've got these in sequence here. If I wanted to make this intro title longer, I select it first, so it's framed in orange, and then hover over the ending of this clip, click and hold, and drag, and now I'm extending the duration of this title. So you can see now it lasts about 7 seconds long instead of 2 or 3. So if I had a slide that had more content on it, like these 5 bullets, I may want to just drag this out so my audience can read all of that content on screen. If I want to make a clip shorter, it's the converse, right? I just push to the left to make that shorter. Angelina says your window looks different. Once you bring in those clips, you should see a timeline with the one track with those assets on it. What are you seeing, Angelina? Do you want to come off of mute and share, either verbally or screen share?
Hi. Okay. So what I did was I did download it. I did have it on my computer already.
Okay.
And my window on top says learning, assembly, editing, color, effects, audio, graphics. So I don't see a place where I could actually start a new project.
Are you sure you're not in Premiere Pro? Look at the upper left. Mine says Premiere Rush. Does yours say Premiere Rush?
I'm in Premiere. Yeah, I'm in the Pro version.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's our harder version, more professional version of this software. So if I bring back over my Creative Cloud desktop application, like David had mentioned, on a Mac, it's in the upper system menu here. It's these little concentric C that look like a cloud. Premiere Rush is one of those applications. Premiere Pro is a different one, a little bit less approachable for the novice. So you might try opening Premiere Rush instead if you've got an open button or an install there.
Okay.
If we have Pro, do you recommend us just using Pro, or would it be better to start off with Rush and kind of move into Pro?
Tom, I mean, if you're already a pro user and you've got your workflow and you know the software, I think that's great. I'm a pro user too. But what I can say about the benefit of Rush is the creation time is really shrunk down to get things published. So if you
I'm
want,
not a pro user. I have it on my computer. I haven't used it. And I'm trying to decide which one I should start with, I guess.
then Rush, definitely. Anybody new to video editing or not sure about the workflows, I think Rush is an ideal tool. So definitely on the Rush side.
Thank you.
Sure. Let me bring in some more content here. That's the blue plus button on the upper left. And when I click that, I have 4 options. I can bring in your media as anything that's sitting on my computer, my learning management system, or OneDrive, anything I have access to. Graphics are titles and icons. We'll go over that in a minute. Audio is great because there's a whole bunch of included soundtracks, loops, and sound effects. So you might have noticed on the project that I showed earlier, I had that really peaceful classical music bed. So let's do a search for classical. And then in this browse audio panel, all of anything that has a tag, if it's called classical or what have you, is going to be returned from that search. And if I grab, I don't want to loop, I want some background music. Here's the length, 27 seconds, most of these. Here's a classical magic. I'll click on that. And then the blue button, add. And now this music, I'm going to close this out now, is sitting beneath, remember our paradigm of that layer stack like playing cards, is here underneath the pictorial elements, right? So if I rewind to the beginning and I press play, now we hear the music. I'll hit pause again. Also, hotkey on your keyboard, the space bar toggles between play and pause. So we've got music in here. Let's go back to our blue plus button. And I want to do some voiceover. And that's me narrating right to my computer using the embedded microphone or whatever your system is set up for. And I'll position my time in current time pointer earlier in the timeline. Let me pause for a second. Neil says, pro takes some learning, definitely. How big do these files typically get, or do they compress well? I'll show you that towards the end, Neil and everybody. When we go to the share menu, you can get files fairly small depending on the quality level. So it depends on the length of your video, right? An hour-long video is going to be much larger than a 3-minute video, but we can make them fairly small through compression for sure. Let's add some narration. Let's say, so I clicked on, remember I clicked blue and I clicked on voiceover, and what Rush did was added a new audio track beneath the music track here, this empty gray space, with a record button. So I'm going to go ahead and narrate right now, and it'll add this to my project. Here I go. Actually, let me mute. See the speaker icon for the Classical Magic music track? I'm going to turn that off. So the slash through the speaker icon turns the waveform to gray, meaning it's temporarily muted down to 0 volume. And here I go. Hey class, hope everybody's doing well. This is week 3, and we're going to talk about motherboards today. So I just added a voiceover. I'll let you listen to what this sounds like, knowing that the height of the waveform indicates greater volume. Okay, here we go. I'll play this back for you. Hey class, hope everybody's doing well. This is week 3, and we're going to talk about motherboards today. So just that quickly, I brought in some voiceover. And what I can do is I've got some empty silent space at the beginning. So I'll just trim this down by dragging this handle to the left. You can see I also have it on the back end here. It's kind of optional, but it's nice to be able to trim on both ends there. And you see my voiceover took longer than my title. And I don't want the class to start seeing content until I'm done talking, which happens right about here where this waveform fades out to nothing. So I want to take my title and make it longer so that it exceeds or at least matches the length of my voiceover. So less distracting to the audience. Here's the difference.
Oh, this is week 3, and we're going to talk about motherboards today.
And then you see how we transitioned into the next slide here. Everybody doing okay so far?
Hi. I have Adobe Premiere Rush. It's downloaded, and I can add the media, but I'm not getting the sequencing. I'm not getting the time. I'm not getting all the tracking at the bottom. So I just get the media listed at the bottom with my project name.
So when you go to the blue plus button, or are you in the Create Project menu, Gail?
I'm probably in Create Project. Did I do that wrong?
No, you're just one step behind. Let me show you what this looks like. I'm going to go back home, and you don't have all these tiles because you have created nothing. Did you create new project?
Yeah, I went Create New Project, but I don't get a blue button. I'm on Windows, but I did project name. I named it. I can put my media on the bottom. I see what you're seeing now. Like, yeah. And then I think I missed what comes next.
Then you hit create in the bottom right. So I picked images.
Missed that one.
That's okay.
I have paper in the way. Okay.
Yeah, when you create, then Rush will sequence them in the same order that you selected them.
Perfect. The rest I'm good. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks for your question. Let me go back, and then I'm going to load up my previous one. So I've got the voiceover, I've got the music, but remember the music is muted, and I don't see my controls on the left-hand side. So let's talk about these buttons in the lower left. I want to be able to see these individual tracks. Remember that record button that was over here? There's a button to do that. It's called Control Tracks. It's the very bottom left one. And I'll click on that, and you can see it expands out to the right, the tracks, but shows me a lock icon, a speaker icon, and a visibility icon, the eyeball. Is it on or off? And I'll unmute the music so that we can hear the music. And let me play this back for you because I want some critique here.
Hey class, hope everybody's doing well. This is week 3, and we're going to talk about...
Hard to hear, right? Because the music is overshadowing my voiceover. So what I want to do is change the order of these two so the voiceover appears on top of the music, and the music volume is automatically lowered whenever Rush detects that there is voice. So I'll do that. I'm going to take this magical classic magic track, select it. So again, it's framed in orange, and drag downward so it appears beneath the voiceover. And one last thing with this, I double tapped on the clip here on this track so that I see some properties on the right-hand side. Now, Rush automatically detected that this is music. My mouse froze for a second. Let Zoom catch up. There we go. And I want it to duck. And auto duck means it's going to happen automatically, meaning that, again, whenever it senses voice, it lowers the music volume. Watch when I turn this on. Maybe tough to see on my screen here, but there's a ramp here that means the volume has been lowered. Let me play it back for you and see if you can tell the difference.
Hey class, hope everybody's doing well. This is week 3, and we're going to talk about motherboards today.
And then the volume is raised. Are you all hearing that across Zoom? Is that coming across? Good. Okay. So we got some voiceover. We've got some music. Now, wouldn't it be nice if I said, hey, class, here's what we're doing today. We're going to talk about motherboards. That's our closed captioning. Now, for me, I tend to be more scripted. I don't want to turn on a camera and shoot video of myself and hemming and hawing and stuttering and everything. So I tend to probably prepare and I write out a basic script, perhaps. And if you're the same, then you already have a script written out, which we can then copy and paste and use as closed captioning. Now, this is a script from a different project, but it's a Word doc. It's just, hey, text on a page, right? And what I can do is grab this text. It's all in caps. I don't think that matters aesthetically for now. and I will copy the text straight from Word. And what I want to do now in Rush is add a new title. So if I hit this plus button, I'd go to the graphics tab here. And these titles and more are built into Rush and can be used for whatever application, for whatever type of use you want to. These are created by motion graphics designers. Many of them are animated. And let's look up something basic, right? Caption. And let's see what comes up when we hit when we type caption. Insert your captions here. It's called bold caption fade. Sounds pretty good. So I'm going to tap that one and choose the add button. And where the blue time pointer is, that's where the title will be added. Give it a second. It's downloading and it says insert your caption here. Now you see it's framed in orange and it's selected and it's in a new track that sits above the already existing titles, background titles from our PowerPoint. It says insert your captions here. You can see it's white text with a black drop shadow. This is in green. If I double tap on it, there we go. It highlights my text and now I can just paste the text over top of where that text was. Now I maybe need to change the line breaks perhaps. So if I maybe position my cursor here, this becomes more like a text editor. And I think at this point it's probably just too large. So the properties on the right-hand side include the text color, but also the size, the font size. And I can drag this handle to the left to make it smaller. Whoop, I have to select all the text. So I'll double tap in there and then select all text. And then I'll bring down the font size. Whoop. I need another line break here, perhaps. Let's hit enter. And Ewan says, so these would be open captions that would always be there as opposed to closed captions that the viewer could toggle on and off. Correct. Yeah, this would be a hard addition to what's visually on the screen. This wouldn't be an on-off switch, unfortunately. So all your videos, you could make them captioned. Our text color needs to be not white. So if we went with something darker, and maybe we'd, I got to select it all again. Sorry, edit, select all. Didn't get it, try that again, select all. And then make the text, let Zoom catch up to my interface here. Here we go. We'll make it dark. And we probably don't need any drop shadow, so I'll toggle that off. So that's what we're looking at here. Here's the caption, at least for this segment. Now, manual process, yes, at least for this exercise for today, just to get you started with titling and captions. So again, here we go.
Hey class, hope everybody's doing well. This is week 3, and we're going to talk about motherboards today.
Now, again, not the right text for what I'm saying, but you get the idea. You open the Word doc, you have your script, you copy the text, you select a new title, and then highlight the text and paste it in. So yes, manual, but at least there's a way to get them on screen there, to match the text, to match what you're saying there. I know we're past the top of the hour. This seems like a natural breaking point. How's everybody doing?
No news is good news.
You stop sharing for a second. Edith is
I just have a quick question. This is Angelina.
Go ahead.
For this caption, it seems like, if you have a lot to say about a screen, it could totally take over that screen, all those words. So is there a way to be able to have it running instead of having this whole paragraph on there?
You could. It becomes a more manual process that, you would copy a line and then make a new title and paste it to replace that. Let me share my screen again.
Because that seems like it'll take over the slide when you put it like that.
I think there's probably a judicious way to do a little bit of scrolling here or a cross dissolve to the next sentence. Yeah, manual process. I just at least wanted to get you started with what could be potential. I don't know what your workflow looks like now and how you get your videos captioned. Do most of you do your own captioning, or does that get sent out to a different office, or you're using YouTube for auto captioning? What are you doing now?
I think most use MS Stream, or they're using another product to make their videos.
Okay. So does Stream allow you to upload videos that you might create here as an MP4 and then it would caption for you?
Yes.
MS Stream. Okay. And MS is a Microsoft product, I guess?
Yes.
Okay. So maybe let's not do the captioning here in Rush and pass it off to MS Stream, perhaps.
Yeah.
How are we doing? Everybody want a 5 to 10 minute break, or should we push onward? Both. It's easy for me because I'm the presenter, so I want to be sensitive to you, the audience, if you need a reset or a humanity break and what have you.
Yeah, how about we try a 5-minute break? How's that sound? Let's aim for a 5-minute break.
That's a good compromise. So quarter after the hour, we'll reconvene. David, I'm good here. So if you need a stretch, please do, and I'll continue to answer questions or address any conversation here.
Awesome. Yeah, I see some chat. I think Sachi was asking about editing audio from existing video. Trina was asking about functions like the pen pointer, how to delete a section later. So I think deleting a section, that might be the snipping tool that we'll talk about later.
And then for Sachi, editing audio, I typically, you can see the waveform here in Rush. It's not the best audio editor if you really want to focus on high quality editing. We at Adobe offer a companion product to Rush and any audio users. It's called Audition. It's this one here. All it does is edit audio. So if you're looking to remove words or remove background noise, or they call it sweeten, add more reverb or more manliness to my voice or what have you, Audition is the way to go. Even to cut out, words to make it sounds like they said something else entirely. I do a fun workshop on that. Sure. And then, yeah, Dagmar, if you want to go ahead and download and install, that's great. If your download is ready for installation. If anybody else has questions in the meantime.
Jason, when I look for that caption, I just type caption in that search, but I cannot find it. It cannot find the same as you. For example, you have so much more than me here.
You're connected to the internet right now, Mehdi?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, maybe I installed this Rush maybe around, I don't know how months ago, but it should be updated. Should be same, correct?
Yeah, it should be. So in the plus button, you went to graphics.
Yeah, I'm going to graphics, and then there are titles and everything. Yeah, I'm going to titles, correct, and then just put caption.
And then hit
enter, and it's show me no matching results.
Maybe spelling error.
Same
caption.
Same caption, yeah.
That's strange. I know Mehdi's my colleague at Seneca here, and I'm logged in with my account, and I do see all the captions listed there.
Huh.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's saying no match. Okay, I try, but it said, yeah, I can see others, just three titles, just three titles and that's it. It's, yeah, it's a strange a little. Okay, let me try, yeah.
It says free titles. Is that what it said?
No, I mean, just, I can see just one, two, three, four, like title,
Oh, Mehdi, I think we're missing is on the top right, you should see a more button. And if you click on more, it should show the entire listing
Yes.
of titles.
yeah, it showed me one, two, three, around 6 or 7 or 8, not more. I cannot see. Oh, that's it. It's a lot.
You just scroll down?
No, I cannot see that.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I cannot see all these long lists. I don't have this long list. Is there any, I need to update something maybe, or?
Maybe.
The version that I currently running is 1.5.50.
1.5150, yeah,
Right.
same.
And if you log back into your Creative Cloud account, you'll
Correct.
notice that on a Jason screen, there are a number of applications that where an update
Yeah.
is available.
Yeah.
But it looks like the version that he has installed is up to date at the moment.
Yeah, okay, I try, but I remember I just updated this everything maybe last week. Okay, but yeah, I cannot see all these different, there are lots of very beautiful ones there, but I don't have any. Okay, let me try. Maybe
you could use the basic one. Do you have that first, Mehdi, the title subtitle?
Yes, I have that. Yeah, I have that one.
Because
Maybe
you could use any of them really. I mean, this is a good one. It's very simple.
Yeah.
So you
Okay.
could add that, and then it comes in to your timeline, and you can see, here they are, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
your title, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'll let
Go
you.
ahead, please. Mhm. Go ahead. Somebody started to speak?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, so the title caption that we put in starts with the first slide, so to speak, or image that you have there. Can you have it pre-start, or do you have to add like a blank slide for it to overlay onto?
You could have, so the first track, that's Tom's question, right?
Yeah.
The first track has to start at 0. So if you wanted the caption to start sooner, you could only push it far to the left, but then you can grab it, drag downward, and it will insert itself in front of the rest of your content.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah. So then it sits there first.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, that helps. I get it now. Yeah. Or I could put like a overlay slide or something before that.
Yeah, you could have a single graphic that's just a solid color, an image or something that you bring in from another program. Sure.
Awesome. And will you be putting in video?
Will we? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
Yes.
Great.
In fact, that's next on the agenda.
Awesome. So far, so great. This has been great. Thank you.
Oh, good. Sure. I think we're back. We're a little bit past the quarter after the hour. So let's jump in. David, were you going to troubleshoot with Kimberly if she wanted to?
Yeah, so what I've done for the entire group, I've created a troubleshooting breakout room. So for anyone who's experiencing some, technical problems, just message me on the side in the chat. You can send me a direct message. Let me know what if you'd like to meet, and I'll jump into the breakout room with you. Okay, so Kimberly, if you want to jump into that breakout room, we can definitely troubleshoot that together.
He says when it's installing. So yes, Kimberly, it's asking you if you want to install the program, basically. I think that's a safe way to go. To say,
right, yeah.
No problem there. All right, let's talk about inserting video. Now, let me bring over a setup slide that I did, because you saw the videos that I shot for the example. And last week, my kids had a snow day, so I had to get out of my office because it was too loud here. And I went down. We've got a pool room where I set up, a little lounge chair with my laptop on my lap. I went a little bit extra overboard, and I have this light ring with a stand and it has a camera mount there. This is overkill, but this thing costs $10 at Walmart. And what I was trying to do is have my cell phone act as the video recording device, but I wanted to maintain my eye contact with my audience, but still see the slides that David gave me from the PowerPoint deck. And you can see that here. I've got that camera right up over it. This, I would say, is overkill. This is, you know, fancier than you might need. You can see the reverse angle here. My camera's in there. But again, I wanted to show you this as an option. You know, here's a clever document cam, you know, a gooseneck stand, and with your cell phone looking down over handwritten notes. You know, if you're teaching, you know, I could imagine maybe Tom's teaching some architectural concepts where he wants to do some live sketching, and there isn't a great program perhaps on computer when he's comfortable with, you know, stylus or pen, pencil, paper, and to capture that content live and then record it. So I just want to show you, now that you understand that, let me go back to the plus sign, and I want to bring in again some video clips that I've already recorded. So I'll go to your media. And remember, I had done some of these recordings already, which I don't have handy, of course. So because they were recorded on my cell phone. In fact, where did I put those? Got video set up now. Well, it's a perfect transition to talk about why to use mobile device. So let me bring this back up on my phone here. And what I'm on a Mac, so if I launch QuickTime Player and go to New Movie Recording and tell it not to capture my webcam with my face live, come on. Instead, go to my iPhone. There we go. And then we need the audio from the iPhone as well. Here we go. So I like to do the recording on my camera, on my iPhone, because it has a high quality camera, higher quality than the webcam, and it gives me portability, right? If I have my laptop, I need to be focused at the same distance, same angle to capture the webcam. So now that I'm on my cell phone, I can go to the plus sign. Well, let me go back in. Oh, that's fine. Plus sign, and I'll create a new project once again. And you see the button at the bottom says take video or photo. So this is available on the mobile version and not available on the desktop version because, you know, your camera and all your controls are built into your phone already. So what you're seeing now, this is my cell phone, and the tic-tac-toe grid is what we call rule of thirds. So cinematographers know this, that more visual interest is captured if you're not, you know, directly centered in the frame like it's your driver's license photo, right? If you're down in a lower corner, it's more visually appealing, so aestheticians say, but it also gives me room, you know, if I wanted to add some graphics in the empty space up here. It also works if you want to turn landscape. Now you can shoot video, you know, in a landscape format. And again, I've got room over my shoulder if I wanted to add key concepts or other type of over the shoulder graphics. So I'm going to record right now on my phone in Rush, but it's also going to synchronize that content to the desktop version that I also have on screen. So let's do it. And it's recording right now. You can see the time counter in the lower right-hand corner. And today, class, not only we're going to talk about motherboards, but chipsets. And available on most motherboards is either the Northbridge or the Southbridge chipset. And we'll dive into more detail in the next module. And I hit the stop button, so the circle, the red circle turns back. And now I've got this +1 that you're saying. It says add one video to my project, and I could continue recording and it would change to a checkbox 2, checkbox 3. So if I wanted to, if I had my script ready, I could knock out all of these little video clips, one right after the other, bang them out really quickly, and then go back into my project and insert them where they need to go. Why don't I do another one? Now that we've here we go. Now that we've covered off on chipsets, next, we're going to talk about both internal ports on the motherboard and external ports on the motherboard. And again, I hit the stop button there. And now I've got a checkbox with number 2. So I'll click that checkbox and it's going to take those clips and insert them into this new timeline. You see them here. Now, if I wanted to, let's play it back. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear that. No, Zoom is messing with the microphone, overriding it, but I'll pause there. Do you see, if you see this blue wheel here, that's the synchronization progress, that it's synchronizing these clips across different devices that are running Rush. So I'll quit the movie player for a minute and I'll return to my videos here and I'll go home here. And you can see this film strip. It's trying to synchronize the 2 new clips that I brought in here. This may take a second. Oh, no, it's got it in. So here we go. If I hit play.
And it's recording right now. You can see the time counter in the lower right-hand corner.
You see the quality is pretty good. It's coming off my iPhone. I've got afternoon sun streaming in here, so it's well lit. But this is the content I don't need. So let's see. Let's hit play.
Only we're going to talk about motherboards, but
let's back up a little bit.
Corner. And today, class, now.
So right in here where I say "and today, class," I'm going to use this button lower left, which expands the audio track so I could see that there's this gap of silence in between here. So I don't need that portion. So if I position the current time pointer here and click the scissor tool, I've now clipped off this portion that I don't need. And let me select it. Once Zoom frees up my mouse, there we go. And I'm gonna get rid of this by clicking the trash can icon. So now take a look and a listen.
And today, class, not only we're going to talk about motherboards, but chipsets, and available on most motherboards.
You get the idea. Here's these 2 clips that I brought in back to back. And it's recorded right off my phone. But again, now I'm on my desktop computer and I can use these in other projects as well. Let me skip over. Let me put a title in front. No, that's fine the way it is. I will go to the share menu. And we were talking about outputting these files so they can be reused on your LMS or in other videos. And I'm going to call this Intro to Modules. And I can change these settings to reduce the file size. I'm not going to at this point, just in the interest of time. I'm going to export these. Just takes a few seconds. And then what I want to do, I'll go back home where we were working on our full lecture here. And I'll jump into this project where we just had the titles. And now what I want to do is go back to add media and bring in the new videos that I just shot from my cell phone. So I'll go to Media Browser. I put them in the Documents folder. And I think they're loose in here. Yeah, Intro to Modules. I'll click on that. And now it's brought into my timeline in between. So what I want to do is 2 things. One, these are 2 different introductions. I want to cut them apart, but then I want to drop them below the titles here. So I have my titles on top of them. So I'll bring this downward. We're done. I added them. Let's close out this window and I'll open up my control tracks. And let's first bring these up just so I can get them onto a different track. And what I'll do here is click, I didn't get them all. Click, drag, there we go. So all 5 of these are selected and I'm going to raise them up, come on, up. Oh, it won't let me. I got to bring this one down lower first. And now I can grab these 5 and raise them up on top of my video. And I think this one needs to come earlier, so I can just make that happen. I can have this one maybe somewhere in here. And then what I want to do is look at this video because these are 2 different clips, remember. And I can tell it's happening somewhere in there, but I want to zoom into this region here. There's a gray bar at the bottom, allows me to zoom. So if I drag to the left, I'm focusing more time. You can see here's 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds. I can zoom in even further. Now I'm at 14, 15, 16. So I'm zooming in on this area, and I'm going to play it back.
Now that we've covered up.
So now that we've covered off, now I can't see the audio, that would be helpful. So I'll expand the audio, and you can see here's that silence. I can tell because the waveform is flat here. And I'll grab my scissor tool and I'll click, and that cuts this area. Now this part I think I don't need. Let's see.
In the next module.
That's where we end in the next module. So I'll click the scissor tool again, and this section is the part that I don't need. So here's the trash can icon, or on my keyboard I can hit delete. And now we've got two separate video segments. Let me zoom out. So again, here's the gray bar. I can drag it to the right to zoom out, or hotkeys on your keyboard. Minus allows you to zoom out, and equals to the right of it, or plus, allows you to zoom in. And let's take a look and a listen. I'll press the space bar, which allows me to play or pause. It's a toggle.
And available on most motherboards is either the Northbridge or the Southbridge chipset.
So if this is the slide that goes over Northbridge and Southbridge, I want to move that down earlier so it lines up with what I'm talking about, and I can extend it longer in duration.
And we'll dive into more detail in the next module. Now that we've covered off.
So if I needed something in between, like maybe that's too rapid a transition, my audience is going to get behind as far as learning content.
Next module. Now that we've covered.
So maybe something in between, like a title or something that introduces the next bit of content. So I'll go back to add media, and I could either create a title right now, or maybe I already have a PowerPoint slide or some other branded item. Let's do a quick title, and I'll just grab whatever one is here real quick and add. And this downloads from the cloud. It inserts kind of in the wrong space here. So I'm going to grab it and pull downward, and Rush is going to make room in the timeline for it. And I'm going to set it right in between there. And let's call this, we'll double tap, and let's not follow us on your channel. Let's call this ports. And I'll double tap here. And we'll call this internal and external ports, because this is the title that precedes the next batch of content. And let's see what this looks like.
Detail in the next module. Now that we've covered off.
So just like that, we were able to put a title, just enough space in between to give the audience maybe a breath before we besiege them with new, fresh material. So quick summary, I recorded video off my cell phone in Rush. It's synchronized to my desktop version of Rush. I brought in the videos and saved them out as a movie, and then brought them into this project using Add Media. I trimmed them down. I got rid of the part that I didn't need where I was touching the screen and my finger was in the way, and lined them up with the slides, and then inserted a title to go in between. How are we doing? Is this on track with everybody? I want to make sure I'm in my calendar. We have enough time to continue. Is everybody keeping up pretty okay, or we need some review or what have you? Doing good, great, okay. How do we add graphic over shoulder? That's next, Paul, perfect timing. Good, okay, everybody's on track. So let's take a listen to what I'm saying here.
Now that we've covered off on chipsets, next we're going to talk about both internal ports on the motherboard and external ports on the.
Okay, so pay no attention to actually the content of the slide. I have a ports slide. I don't think that's relevant, but let's say when I start talking about ports, we want this slide to appear over my shoulder. So let's move it earlier in the timeline because I start talking about ports earlier. And then we want to resize it. So if I click anywhere in the window, now I've got these blue open circular handles that allow me to change the size. So if I just click and drag, it becomes smaller size-wise. And then if I click inside the window, I can move it into the over-the-shoulder area, something like this. So let's take a look and a listen here.
Now that we've covered off on chipsets, next we're going to talk about both internal ports on the motherboard and external ports on the motherboard.
Now let's say that wasn't quite right as far as timing goes. So I'm going to grab these two clips. We're not ready for them. I'm just going to drag them down out of the way. And this one, I really started talking about ports in here somewhere. And wouldn't it be nice, instead of it snapping on screen there, that I added a transition so it faded up more pleasingly? There's a menu for that. And if I click on the clip and travel over to the right-hand side of the interface, it's this lightning bolt with the speed, the little 3, Bugs Bunny Roadrunner type of whoosh type of graphic. And I'll click on that. And here's a dissolve transition. I suggest not going crazy with the push up, push down, wipe, slide, because that can be disconcerting to your audience. I like a nice, easy dissolve. And just when I clicked on the dissolve, Rush added these gray boxes at the beginning and the end of the clip. That indicates a transition. And I'll show you what that looks like in slow motion here. You see it fades up, stays on screen, and then fades away. And that's the transition. Let's play it back in real speed. Here we go.
Next, we're going to talk about both internal ports on the motherboard and external ports.
You get the idea. It's probably not long enough for the audience to absorb. So if I grab the right-hand handle of that clip and drag to the right, now I'm extending the time that it'll appear on screen. Here it is again.
Internal ports on the motherboard and external ports on the motherboard.
You get the idea. So that's that over-the-shoulder graphic.
Hey, Jason, just curious. Say, for example, our audience here has a slide that's similar to this one, and they just want just that screenshot of that American mega trends. Is there a way to crop that that image there?
There is a crop. So if I double tap on that clip itself, well, yeah.
I want to say it might be that last option where we have that rotation.
It is on, let me show you. Okay, double tap. Double tap on the clip name, not on the image inside the program window. On the right-hand side, it flies out the properties associated with the highlighted clip. And here's crop. So we'll crop from all 4 sides. Here's the bottom edge of the crop. Maybe we'll frame it in white. We'll use a little bit of that white that's left over from your PowerPoint slide. Ooh, too much. And then here's the right side. And then since we cropped it down, maybe we grab it and move it over and then scale it up a little bit bigger so that it fits a little bit better there. How about that?
Yeah, that definitely saves a lot of time, especially if we don't have that original raw image and say it's only in that PowerPoint slide, then we can always do this kind of crop and expand.
Yeah, definitely. Good question. So yeah, those are the properties related to whatever is selected. So these properties, if I double tap when I'm on this ports graphic, let's double tap. Now we've got properties relevant to the title graphic, the color of the text, the shadow, the shape. So that properties menu is context sensitive. Whatever you're working on, it will show you the properties that are native to that type of content. Can you export the image out of the Rush editor? Tom, like a single frame? Like if I just want this picture of my face with poor lip position?
Either the single frame, yes. And or as David was saying, if we only had that image that you're editing there captured in the slide, can you export that back out?
You know, I do that on Premiere Pro all the time. Let me see. I think what I need to do is set my work area to be much smaller, like a single frame. And I'm not, oh, you know what? It might be, no, I don't know that you can. I think it only wants to export out the whole work area.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a Premiere Pro function. I don't know that we can do it here, unfortunately.
All right, not a problem. But you can export out a frame?
In Premiere Pro, yes, you can export
Okay.
out any of the video as single frames, or
Okay.
all of it even. You know, it's sequential frames.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me make sure I'm on target with my content. And over recording and effects and transform. How about we change speed of a clip? Let me browse for a new clip. And I probably have something, no. My son had to do a science project of an egg drop. He had to build a container that would protect an egg from crushing if it was dropped off of a 10 or 12 foot height. So when he actually let it go off of the balcony, we went into slow motion as it fell downward. Let me grab some other footage here. And I'll add this in. This is some other video that I use as a demo. I think this is that's a still frame. Oh, there we go. I'm looking for the diver. Come on. There we go. So let's say this sequence of this snorkeler.
In the past, tourism was often associated with wasteful consumption, you know, going on.
There we go. So let's say I'm going to use my scissor tool again. That's the out point of this scuba guy, or I'm sorry, snorkeler. Here's the in point. And I just want this section. I'm going to lift it out. I'll move it over towards my project here. Maybe even drag it back in. Oh, it didn't take. Let's do that again. And I'll drag it back downward in. Good. Yep, here it is. Nope. Where did it land? Here we go. And I'll zoom in here, hitting the plus button. And let's say I want to slow down this clip so it plays nicely in slow motion. In the menu on the right, there's a speed control. Looks like this little speedometer, and I'll click on it. And the shot itself is 4 seconds long and some change there. And I want it to be longer. As I drag this to the left, it's now effectively doubled, right? 10 or so. Let me play it back for you.
Tourism was often associated with.
We don't need the audio for that clip, do we? So I will take I'll keep the visual. I'll go into the audio menu here, and this clip volume, I'm going to crush to 0, or I could click the mute button. They effectively do the same thing. And I'll back up to the beginning of this snorkeler and play it back now. You can see I've got that slow, graceful part. So let's say you were giving a lecture lab assignment on something critical with technique from a lab. You could section off that clip using the scissor tool and then expand out the duration of it using the speed control. And then just crush the volume if there's narration or music, because that's fairly disconcerting. So good, covered off on speed. Obviously, you could do the same thing in reverse. If I'm, let's see, if I'm, doing my intro and, Yeah, it's probably not very relevant to me giving the intro, but if there was a sequence that you could speed up, you could also do the speed up as well. Let me see what I missed here. I think we're ready to publish. Unless anybody has questions on any of the features that we've shown already, or other features that we haven't shown.
I guess one point I wanted to bring out, for those who are not comfortable using your mobile device to, your personal mobile device to record video, you could potentially use your existing laptop camera or your headsets, and you could record a video of yourself, whether you use Teams, WebEx, Zoom. Essentially, you would set up a meeting, turn on your camera, and then you would just do a quick recording of yourself. And then you'll take that recording and then you just import it into your project.
Yeah, it's a great use, right? I mean, you've got all the technology already there. You're comfortable with your video conferencing software. So yeah, great point, David. Thank you for reminding the audience that. So just with these, I'm just changing, thought I was changing the size there. Let me grab that handle. Whoa, 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 whoa. This one. And I'll pull this corner handle down and again, put it over shoulder. I was just messing around with our video as it is now. So we've got our titles, we've got our narration, we've got our over the shoulder graphics, we've got some slow motion video here. Oh, I resized it and shouldn't have. So I'm going to hit, I'll double tap on that clip and I can hit reset. And oh, that's full screen default. Let me size it larger so it fits again. Paul says, can I overlay two windows at the same time? Sure, Paul, you can, let's do that. So in here, we've got pretty much the two, more or less overlaid. We could even take this one and reduce the opacity of it, right? So now you're seeing what's underneath it, the slow motion snorkeler through the topmost one. So I've got some footage here. I'm about ready to export. This whole movie is, well, under a minute. Yeah, about 40 seconds. And to do that, I want to go to the share menu, because if you're interested in the micro credential for today's workshop, you will need to create a video that has a number of criteria. We'll go over that in a minute, but as a final step, you'll need to export it, save it somewhere, and that David and I can take a look at it for assessment. So I'll rename this sequence to Seneca TL Demo 2. I'll put it in my documents folder, and it's saying that the file size is going to be about 93 megabytes. This is a full 1080 video. This is high resolution. If I went to a lower setting, but still good quality, look at the difference. It's 93, and now I'll reduce it. Now it's less than half at 42. It recorded in stereo audio. Perhaps I only need mono. And then if I can change the quality setting down even further, and now I'm down to 26 megabytes. So that's a pretty good downloadable size, even on a mobile device. And I'll hit export. It goes through fairly quickly. And yes, David, you're right about Paul's question. You can have 4 video tracks simultaneously in Rush that, all overlay. If you needed more, then it's a Premiere Pro thing, and I think it's like 64 different tracks. This exported as an MP4. Let's take a look in Finder. Here's my documents window. Again, here's the name of the video as an MP4 video. It is 23 megabytes. This is not a Rush file. This is a video file that anybody can play across any device pretty much, and that one that you can upload to your course shell in Blackboard or Canvas or whatever it is you're using. If I double tap, it opens in a movie player window, and it's a self-contained movie. It's 39 seconds long. Here it is. And today, class, not only we're going to talk about motherboards, but chipsets. And available on most motherboards is either the Northbridge or the Southbridge chipset. And we'll dive into more detail in the next module. Now that we've covered off on chipsets, next we're going to talk about both internal ports on the motherboard and external ports. I think you get the idea there. Tom says, can you add a hyperlink to a video? No, we don't have any hot links or anything like that that's available on the video frame. You probably have to include a text description wherever it is you upload the video. You know, users can click here for more information. You can talk it, you can add a title, but it wouldn't be a clickable item. Yeah. All right, back to Rush. Let's go back home. And David, did you make edits to the certification slide? I think you might have been in there over the break.
No, actually, I was caught off guard last break, so I've downloaded the file, but if you have it in front of you, no problem.
I do.
Excellent.
So for everybody, there's a micro-credential badge available. This is the website. David, if you wouldn't mind, again, putting that in the chat. I know you did that earlier. So we're looking for a video which has images, and they could be images from a PowerPoint deck or from your dog or a holiday or photographs. Text, and text could be an intro title or captions or any use of the text titler. It should have audio and or video. So audio could be a music bed, or the video plus audio could be you recording yourself talking through something. And then transitions, I showed you the dissolve. So it changes the opacity over time of a clip. So you should at least experiment with one transition. I prefer dissolve, but there is others for you to utilize or experiment with. And then export that video or share it out of Rush. Upload it to a platform of your choice, and then send us the link through the micro-credential form is where you submit the link. And I want to pause there if there's any feedback or questions around earning the micro-credential. Hey, everybody's stellar today. They're off and running, it sounds like. A timeline to send the video, you mean like a deadline, Jasmine, on when applications or badges applications will be due? Yes. David, do you know if there's a deadline?
You know what? I don't see a deadline here.
You know, the ones that we've offered in the past, like last year, I don't think it had a deadline.
Yeah, so I don't see a deadline here, but in the process, just to be aware that if you click on the link there that says badge application form in the red font, there are two ways to upload your video file. One is to upload the file directly to the site, but the caveat here is that your file size cannot exceed 10 megabytes. So if your file is going to be larger than that, then we recommend that you upload to some type of platform, whether it's a storage drive like OneDrive or SharePoint, or perhaps one of those video platforms like YouTube and Microsoft Stream, and then just paste in your URL, the link to your work in the workshop activity box there.
Perfect. Yeah, put the URL here. Perfect. And I want to address Sashi's question. 2 workshops that we attended, but the form only requests submission from one. I think there's an individual micro-credential for each session. So this one would be related to video editing. Right? It's a separate micro-credential that you would earn from whatever session you went to this morning. David, is that right?
You know what? I think it's a little fuzzy on my end in terms of which workshop, but because you attended 2 workshops, I think you can select which one you want to submit. And that would be part of your quote unquote portfolio that you would submit for this one badge. So some of the criteria in obtaining this badge is, of course, writing a reflection on the presentation earlier from our keynote speaker, and then, of course, the workshop. So by having those 2 pieces of those 2 submissions, I think that encompasses everything there. And then you would just submit it to our teaching and learning department, and then they would just review to make sure that everything is completed.
And I think, Sachi, to your next question, I think you can fill out this form twice. So you'd be earning a badge, for this session and a different one for the other form that you submit. I'm fairly certain you can earn multiple badges for today. That's how we've done it in the past anyway. And with the last few minutes, if anybody needs help with Rush or wants me to go back over any of the features or workflow, or if there's something I didn't address, I'm happy to stay here till the top of the hour. I think we're good till, David. Actually.
Yeah, actually we have about 20 minutes left.
Oh my
till
gosh, how did we
3:15.
finish?
Yeah.
We covered more this time with less time.
Yeah, I think one of the drivers last time was, I think because we had a smaller group last time, it had a more intimate feel with a lot more dialogue.
More questions.
But with a bigger group, I think it's, I guess, not as much.
And Kimberly says, any tips on what not to do? So Kimberly, I think I mentioned about some of those transitions that can be annoying, some of the wipes or pushes or reveals. I like a nice dissolve. The other thing is really a benefit for you is don't do stuff that's going to give you more work later. And what I mean by that, when we looked at some of the demo material here, I started out with an instructor message. Let me let this load for a second. This clip where I kind of introduce myself, I have this clip separated from maybe 10 minutes worth of video. So let's say it's the summer session, you're doing an inter-session, and the message wasn't appropriate about staying warm and staying safe. You wanted to replace just this clip. You don't have to go into 10 minutes of video and re-record. You just need to re-record one clip and then replace it here, this 20-second salutation in the timeline, saving you time, right? It's making this content more reusable and thus increasing your ROI on the time that you invest to create video.
Is there any way to actually edit video, let's say contrast or whatnot on it?
Yes. So for example, we didn't cover that today, but it's these 3 concentric or more or less concentric rings in the right. And there are various looks that you can apply just by clicking. And if you don't like any of them, you can create your own preset using the edit menu and even save it as a new. You could call this, Tom's look, right? Tom's look. And maybe we want to, reduce the highlights, reduce the contrast, reduce the shadows, and give it a darker, flatter look, perhaps. Maybe add a little bit of vignette. And then that becomes saved as your preset. And you can use that whenever you want.
Awesome, thanks.
2 questions I'll still address. Angelina, yes, this is always saving to the cloud. So you'll notice there is no save button. And if I were to load this project on my iPhone, everything would already be synchronized to my last edit that I'm doing live right here. And then, yes, Angelina, if you cut a clip by mistake, you can retrieve it 2 ways. One is undo, right? That's a button here in the interface, or edit menu undo. You may have to go back successive steps, or check this out. If I cut this clip right here and I delete or throw away this portion, I'll throw it away. This is really what we call non-destructive editing, meaning this clip that has been cut, if I just grab this left handle and push to the left, it's really still here. I haven't deleted it. It's still available. So this is as long as it was, and now it's back to the beginning. I did as if I never clipped it out in the first place. They call that non-destructive editing.
Is there a limit to our cloud space?
Tom, are you faculty at Seneca?
Faculty at Loyalist College.
Loyalist. So do you get your own license or of Creative Cloud?
I do have my own Creative Cloud license.
So it's going to vary. So if it's your own, I think individual users are 100 gigabytes per account. So for instance, I click my avatar. This is the Creative Cloud desktop application. And I think if I click on Adobe account, it launches in a browser and shows me how much space I've used and how much I have available. Profile. No, it's a sync. Where did it go?
I guess I should edit that. I have my own account through Loyalist, so I guess it's Loyalist account then.
Typically, yeah, through education accounts, it's 100 gigabytes per user. I think, we keep moving stuff around here. Oh, here it is. It's the cloud icon right next to my avatar. And because I work for Adobe, I've got a terabyte, so I've only used 35 gigs. But yeah, I think per user it's 100 gigs, and you'll see how much is used here.
Okay.
So you can offload projects as well. You know, like if they're all synchronized, you can copy them off and store them elsewhere, maybe once they're finished.
Okay, I didn't know. Okay, how would I do that?
So in the Rush interface, let me go back to Rush. You can see from the home screen, you know, all of these past projects. Let's say there's one really old that I don't need anymore. First of all, I want to go into it and make sure I save out the movie, the resulting movie. I can copy that, you know, to a hard drive or local drive, but then click the delete everywhere, and that removes it from your cloud storage.
Okay, but it doesn't. Can we save that on our computer first, or once deleted, it's gone?
Rush is cloud-based only, and that's so it synchronizes across devices. So that's why I was saying at least save out the movie.
Yeah.
When you share it out, so at least you have the final video edit. You wouldn't have all the clips, you know, in order. Although what you could do is if you launched Premiere Pro, then you can bring it into Premiere Pro and save it as a local file.
Okay.
Yeah, Premiere Pro, when you launch Premiere Pro, right from the splash screen, it says Open Rush Project. And it brings in all of the Rush attributes, all of the individual clips, all of the transitions, anything you've done in Rush, it maintains that, yet it converts it to a working Premiere Pro version. And then Premiere Pro lets you save anywhere you want. It's not just cloud-based.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we touched upon this, but students can also use this tool to perhaps create a portfolio for themselves. Maybe throughout the term, they have a number of different assessments. Maybe this could be a tool for you to create assessments for your students. So, you know, obviously one of the challenges in this online environment is creating authentic assessments where, you know, you really want to understand what the student really knows, right? So, you know, I would say a majority of the students have a mobile device, and you know they could definitely create videos and submit them as assessments. And then of course they have this kind of collection of videos that they could use perhaps to help them study for maybe a final exam, or maybe they just collect them all as a portfolio if they need that for industry. So, you know, definitely a versatile tool, not just limited to faculty.
It's a good point, David. Thanks for bringing that up. Anybody else have further questions or discussion points here?
Hi. I was asking about syncing, and I understand how it works from my phone, between my phone and my computer, but I can't see the file. So I don't know where. I've tried different places to look, and I missed you when you brought it from your phone. Are you able to show that?
Sure, sure.
Thank you.
Let me see. I think it was this one. Yeah, I recorded on my phone and saved it as, well, I didn't even save it. It just synchronizes,
Right,
really.
right.
So when you go to the home screen, the home button, upper left,
Yeah.
it should appear if you're logged into the same account across both devices, it should just appear as long as you're connected to the internet.
Yeah, it's not.
It may take a couple minutes depending on your internet bandwidth. Does it show even the name of the project that you were working on from your phone?
No, it didn't.
Yeah, it may take a minute, but are you logged in to the same account across both devices?
Yes. Yeah, I double checked that. Yeah. Yeah, that was my first thought, because I do have a personal one that I can log in either way, right?
Right.
But the school is the paid one. So yeah, no, I checked that. I'll try it again. It's okay.
Yeah, the other thing you could try is under Rush, you could quit Rush and then relaunch it. Sometimes that kicks in the synchronization process.
Okay.
And to answer Laura's question, no, you don't need Rush on your phone. You could use it just, excuse me, as a desktop tool. I like to do it on the phone just so I can take advantage of the recording features. But you could also just use your camera app on your iPhone or Android device, capture the video you need, and then email it to yourself or save it up to OneDrive or whatever cloud storage you use, so that you could use the video footage in Rush.
Jason, a question from Rod. Are there any pre-made backgrounds in Rush? Maybe they're graphics or some type of background.
To go behind the user?
Yes, that's what I understand.
There aren't. Zoom, I know, has the background detection and can blur it out or put you on a false background. Rush doesn't have any keying features. That's what that's called in industry, is to have a key, like a keyhole that you fill with your person and versus what's behind you. So no, there aren't any of those keying features. So I would rely on Zoom or similar to be able to treat your background differently than your foreground. Premiere Pro does, and then like you said, David, to have a white background that Premiere Pro can sense that it's all a single color background and remove it and put something else in. So Premiere Pro does, but Rush does not.
Awesome. So going back to your point, Rod, about your question about the backgrounds, one of the I think we mentioned this earlier in the presentation, is that what you could do is take a PowerPoint slide. So maybe your institution has branded templates, and you could potentially take one of the PowerPoint slides, save it as a JPEG or an image file, and then you can import it into your Rush project. And then of course, when you do create your video of yourself talking, you can overlay that on top of the image.
Mm. The other thing, this is my DIY tip for the moment. You guys probably have some of these, right? Collapsible curtain, Chinese paper curtain. I keep that aside for various meetings. That's a physical object, not a virtual backdrop.
I guess you could lay a green screen behind that as well, and then you can go back to that virtual background if that's what you choose.
You can pick up some green fabric or a green curtain from your favorite home decorator shop.
A quick question about audio enhancement or whatever on microphones. Is it best to try to record with the best quality, or does Rush contain any kind of filters or things to kind of improve?
Great. Let me talk about that and show you. Let me share screen again, Rod. That's worthy. Desktop one, share. Here we go. And then let me load this project back in. There are some built in. Often if I need to remove a lot of noise, I'll go into Adobe Audition, but here's my audio. Let me put this on screen. And again, I'll expand the tracks and then show the controls of them. Here we go.
Most motherboards is either the North Bridge.
So over on the right-hand side, if we double tap our clip here, we're in the audio section. The auto volume is on by default. You can turn it off, but then there's 4 different check boxes to balance, reduce background noise, echo, or even enhance speech to go higher or lower. And I can reduce background noise, and then I've got a slider on how much noise I want to reduce. And the changes are somewhat subtle. If you really want to go in and remove noise, or depending on what you're trying to do, I would use Audition, but let's see if we can determine the difference here.
Not only we're going to talk about motherboards, but chipsets. And available on most motherboards is either the North Bridge.
Not bad. Let's reduce echo as well and maybe pull down some of the lesser background noise filtering, and I'll play that again.
Chipsets. And available on most motherboards is either the North Bridge or the South Bridge chipset. And
yeah, so it helps a bit. I would say, again, if you're like have a fan going on or it's picking up some buzzing or something, then Audition allows you to capture a noise print and then remove that from your entire recording. Okay. Any other questions or any other features that you're looking for here? Well, David, I think we are pretty set then for today.
Yeah, wow, that was very, very encouraging based on the participation. I mean, this morning was it was a little bit of a downer to me, a little bit discouraging, but wow. Today was definitely, I mean, this session was definitely a better turnout.
Yeah, very good. And I was going to refer everybody to the next session, but I think we're wrapped, right? As soon as this one is over, this is the end of the day.
That's right. So feel free to you know, continue to hang around for the next few minutes. I'll hold down the fort if you want to, you know, take off early, Jason. I know you've been, you know, starting very early, especially with the time zone difference. So we do appreciate you know, presenting it. Definitely very, very helpful with using this tool. I learned some new features myself today.
Right
It's
on, right
excellent.
on. I do see one straggling question about font effects from Nushin. Should I go ahead and show?
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Nushin, if you're going to stay behind, I mean,
Let's
yeah.
do that.
Let's yeah.
Back to Rush. I would call font effects to be the titling that's here in the timeline. So if I come over to the end, let's grab a new title. Let me move the chat out of the way. And these are under the blue plus sign graphics. And then these are all titles. There are some transitions, even some overlays. These are fairly new, like tap for sound, subscribe now. They tend to have motion involved, and you can check these out. I think what you're describing is titles, and I'll go to more. And Seneca also licenses Adobe Stock, and I have a lot of Adobe Stock templates for other titles, but there's so many in here. You know, if I'm just scrolling downward, these are the various styles. You know, some of them have large fonts and shapes and animation. I'll add this. Sometimes, you know, you can, you know, destroy an hour just browsing for stuff, which you probably don't want to do. But this title, let me play it through. It's got some motion on the front end, and then it probably motions out of screen too. Let me see. Yep. Is that what you mean by font effects?
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks a lot. It was really good teaching.
Sure.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Hey, Jason, if you can go back to the different titles there. You mentioned a new section there called overlays, and I noticed that there's a, what's it called? Subscribe now, a button. I'm wondering, will that add a link to the video? I'm curious.
I don't think so, but let's add it.
I mean, I was just curious if that call to action is actually actionable, or if it's something that you need to subscribe on.
Yeah, I think it's just the pictorial equivalent. It's not anything I can.
Okay, it's just curious.
Yeah.
Not in this version. Next version.
I haven't seen any videos that have hot links embedded in the picture.
Yeah, typically it's I think added after the fact, like say YouTube videos. It's YouTube's a tool where they allow you to kind of overlay some clickable links, right?
Right. So, or you know, if it's a you know, a game show host or what have you, he or she might say, "Hey, follow us. You know, subscribe to our channel now," and that's when this graphic would overlay. But typically, they're talking through it. They're saying, you know, www.blankblank.com.
Right. Yeah. So speaking of that, you know, that's subscribe now. So just going back on a reason for students to watch this video, perhaps you could use this subscribe now as maybe a hint to a test that's coming up. Maybe it says instead of subscribe now there, maybe it's just a quick pop-up that says, hey, motherboards will be on the exam. And then now it kind of encourages the students to watch the videos that you've created.
I like that a lot. So instead of the subscribe now text, you could say, this will be on the test, right?
Right, there you go. And then that kind of tests to see if the students are actually watching the video as well. Or you could even, I think like your suggestion earlier, Jason, is that you could even put in like some bonus marks in there. Perhaps you say, hey, the keyword here is, I don't know, motherboard. If you email me that, you get some bonus marks on this assignment.
That's right. Yeah, little Easter eggs that you can hide in the video. That's right.
Exactly.
Very good. It's a good idea for student engagement. That's fun.
This isn't really a rush question, but as we keep producing more of these videos, I've heard there's some companies now that will hold the videos kind of in a database, and as a future student is looking for that piece of description or study about the motherboard where you mentioned a particular phrase, they can find that, and then it'll take them directly to that portion of the clip. Is Adobe talking about that kind of thinking of like, when we're all done, like first we've got to create this stuff, but later on, how is it really going to be used more effectively in teaching and learning?
Yeah, Rod, it's a great question. We do have a whole platform of products which we call digital experience. They're separate from digital media, which is Creative Cloud. And a lot of Fortune 500 companies use that platform. The one that you're describing, we call Adobe Experience Manager. We don't have educational pricing, sadly, but what you're describing is already happening where the asset manager, and that's what it is, it's an asset management solution, will go through maybe the narration, right, and detect all of the keywords that the instructor says motherboard, then that's a keyword, right? Or any graphic overlays, like this will be on the test kind of thing, that would be logged as far as a keyword in a searchable database. So we do have many of our commercial customers using the asset manager solution that we call Adobe Experience Manager. Not a whole lot of educational institutions taking advantage, mainly as a.
So is that done automatically, or is there something when we're creating in the future? Would we add these like keyword? Can we embed keywords? Things like when we first started building websites, right? We had to learn to kind of do that. So effectively, we try to think of when we create it, we try to think of our video being more searchable rather than it, sort of just being so many minutes of video.
No, you're right. And to answer your question, it's both. The author can tag, effective keywords that he or she thinks is important. It can be done on the back end by the team that's ingesting those assets. They can do it manually. But Adobe has developed, we have an artificial intelligence engine we call Sensei. And it's used in a lot of our products. Like Photoshop, there's a background removal tool. And whatever photograph you send it, whether it's, I'm looking out the window at pine trees and roofs and stuff, it knows what is sky and what is not, and it can replace based on its artificial intelligence. We have technology that will go through the voice portion, the narration, and pull out the script based on those same technology and filter out the keywords accordingly.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's very exciting because I think that's also an incentive for faculty. Like some people may be wondering, how are they really going to use video and how does it sit compared to what they're doing or whatever. But I think looking out a certain number of years, like we start to realize a much greater potential of what video can be to a learner, right? And how they can how they'll be accessed and looked at. And also the idea of the archiving again. So we can then take our clips and everything and build up sort of this greater learning archive of information.
No, you're
right.
not
thinking about constant editing and things, right? It just means they can go find that portion or part. They don't have to go manually searching around.
Agreed. And you probably have seen it on YouTube already, right? If you search for how do I, loosen a rusty nut, it'll show you a clip of video inside of a video where that exact question is answered. Very exciting stuff. Yeah.
And that concludes our session. Thank you everyone for joining us, and again, thank you Jason for leading this. This was awesome, and I hope that a number of different faculty here are able to create a product that can be reusable, and hopefully they can find ROI in using this product.
Great. Thanks for your help, David. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Jason. Catch you later.
Have a great day, everybody.
All right. Take care. Cheers.